Hey guys, welcome to a new episode of my replay analysis series. I'm sorry for the wait. I've just been really lazy recently, so I'm gonna try to start being more consistent with my videos again. So sorry about that. I'm at college now, but I should be able to make time easily for this. So let's get started with our first replay, which is Manuf Cap Split by Adam2332. It's a nice little manipulation replay followed by a split cap. And I don't know if technically you should call it a cap split because of the order, but I always just call a replay that consists of a split and a decap a split cap. I don't think it really matters the order you say it in. Anyway, we'll get into it. So the first major problem I have, not major, but first problem I have with this replay is this opener portion right there. What he does is he lowers and then raises his arm kind of quickly. You can sort of see how it's a little bit abrupt when he raises his left shoulder there. And it really affects the rest of his body, so it takes away from his flow, I think. So I'm not a fan of that. But it's a nice little setup hit that gets under the armpit, and then he brings in his other arm for a hit on the shin here, which, using the armpit and the shin to get a good lift is definitely a really good way to start your manipulation replays. The only problem with those two hits is that he manages to hit his head in the middle there, and you really don't want to hit your head ever. It's just a bad thing. No one ever likes to see you with the red head for 50 frames or however long it lasts. Next, he gets a nice little kick. He's doing a really good job. He does a really good job of following up every one of these hits that he does. That last one on the arm there wasn't solid as I'd like it to be, but I've been in that position before where it's sort of like you want to get a hit in, but you can't get a solid one. And really, any kind of touch that looks like it's doing something is good. So I think it would have been better if he'd gotten his foot to touch Uke. Then, even if it didn't anything, it really looks like he did. Because the way he has it now, it's really only his shin that's actually touching. I mean, his foot technically scrapes, I think. But I really would have preferred the foot to have a more solid hit than it did there. Then there's a little bit of indecision at the bottom there after he does his last manipulating hit, because it seems like he just sort of splays out and waits a little bit. And it doesn't seem like he worked really hard at getting a good position after that last hit. It looks like he just sort of fell into a position and then just sort of scrambled up to get that last little hand hit in there before the decap. And I really would have liked for him to do something that showed that he had a little bit more control than what he did there. The hook decap I like. It's nice and powerful and fast, so that's good. I do like how he sort of uses his hand to speed up the spin a little bit right before the kick, and also get his foot more power. I think that's a good thing to do. Then grab, and then a core hit. It's really nice, and falls into a pose, so that's really good. So I don't really have any problems with the hits and the pose of this replay. Those are all really good. But it looks like you sort of lack a little bit of confidence in the way that he's moving. Just the arm raise at the beginning, then the falling over at the end, and then the not kicking the arm thing. I really would have preferred for him to exhibit a little bit more control. Maybe just spend a little bit more time making sure everything looks good besides the hits. Because that's a thing that you can really fall into. You need to make sure that everything is good rather than just the hits. I used to be like that. I just focus on the hits, and then everything around the hits was just garbage. You don't want that. So, next replay, I guess. So our next replay here is going to be Cubes of Sanity by Moonshake. This is a little Sambo Madman split cap. I'm not sure which kind of thing. I also kind of like that he's rocking the Aphex twin head, which is cool. But we're going to check this out. Alright. So, for one, he starts with an opener, which is cool. I like openers. You can see he does this little, he sort of starts off by putting his leg out there and getting a nice spin in there, and I like that. I love spinny openers. If you watch my replays, you would know that I'm all about the spinny openers. One thing I don't like is I don't like the actually I can do never mind. I don't like that he sort of like does this little shuffle thing when he's setting up. Like he sort of takes that little step. Maybe it's because I'm used to classic gravity replays, but I wouldn't have taken that step. I would have tried to keep my legs straight during that period, because I just think that looks nicer. This replay is gonna get a lot into personal taste, I think. So I'll just warn you of that. The spin that he gets out of the opener is pretty nice. He gets his leg up there. I would have liked it more, I think, if he had an extended abs. I think extended abs is a really underrated tool in a replay maker's catalog. I know a lot of people only use abs when they're trying to aim a kick or something, but I think extending your abs can add like a whole new thing to your replays. Extending and contracting your abs at appropriate times is a really good skill to have. So I'd recommend that in this opener at least. I mean, it's a nice opener, definitely. He definitely moves with a lot of skill and grace, but I think it doesn't have like a particular flavor to it, if you know what I mean. Like you see that he's moving really well, but it doesn't feel like it's a unique movement sort of thing. And I think if you just use as many joints as possible, then you can pull out as much uniqueness from your replays as possible. But he lands from his spin and gets another kick to set up for another spin. Nice little 360 off the ground. I like that. I like the little fake out. Like, it looks like that could be a setup for his first hit, and then he just does a spin in front of him. I like that. But then, since it's Sambo, he's falling over quick, so you need to do something. So he just brings his leg up and kicks the forearm off, which I think is a fun first move. I almost never do it, but I always appreciate people that do break off silly limbs like the elbows first. And then he follows up with a strong backhand. The backhand's really nice. I like that more than the first hit. He just nice and clean. He brings it up. It's a solid hit. I really like that backhand. The decap I'm not as much of a fan of because it seems a little bit subtle and it looks like it comes out of nowhere. Like his arm is sort of extended while it's there. Granted, he's in a bad angle for a decap, but I feel like maybe he could have gotten more of a launch out of his backhand, or maybe he could have angled it better so he could have gotten a prettier hit on that decap. But as it is, I'm not really a fan of it. Also, looks kind of like he hits with the forearm there, if you can see there. Like, it doesn't look like the hand is doing the hit. Even though it is technically getting that decap, you can see that the hand is hitting the neck joint. The fact that he's hitting the head with the forearm is not a good sign, and I don't like that. It's really nice when you can get clean hits in there. So, forearm, backhand, uppercut. And then I really like that last kick, though. That's a very nice last kick. Squeezing that just sort of reaching out there and squeezing that last chest DM in there. That's really pretty. And that's a really good thing to end your replay on. And then he does a flip into a pose. So overall, this is a good replay. I don't have anything too heavy against this replay. The only thing, I just don't feel like there's enough of Moonshake's own particular flavor to this replay. I still don't know what that is, but I think he has one, and I feel like he could add a little bit more. But it's definitely a very skilled replay. So the next replay here is going to be Punchin' and Skeetin' by Nightshade. This is a relatively simple replay, a little punch combo followed by 2 skeets with the wrist, and then he falls into a pose there. So we're going to talk about this. Alright. So, first thing he does is he does the opener, the extended glutes thing, everyone's favorite. Everyone knows and loves the extended glutes opener. He cuts it a little bit shorter than a replay maker normally would, because what he's doing is he's going in for a punch. I don't like this punch. There's not a lot of wind up for it. He's coming from a held all position on the right side there, so he's not getting the full range of motion on his pec. It's really a lot nicer if you have your pec extended before you punch, because one, you get more power on it, and two, it just looks better, I think. And it's just sort of sudden here, and he looks like he's sort of holding all and just sort of swinging his arm out there. And it does hit very well. It's placed in a good place, but it seems like, I don't know, it didn't take a lot to make that punch. The next punch that comes out is a lot more nicely executed. It's got for one, it starts with the pec extended at the beginning, as you can see there. Then he contracts his elbow first and then extends it, which is definitely a much harder punch to execute than the sort of swing that he does for the first one. And I also like that his legs are a little bit more planted for it. So it looks like he's in more of just a nice looking stance for his punch. Then he goes for a quick third punch with his right arm, which once again looks nice. But in this context, I feel like the punch thing is sort of boring at this point. Like, you've already done 2 punches on his glutes, and now you're gonna just do a third punch right like that. It's like, do something else. Like, do something with your legs. Like, one thing I really noticed about this replay is that for this entire punch combination, the legs don't really do much. Like, you just look at the legs, they just sort of plant there and they stay there while he just swings his arms up there. And I really don't like that compared to, like, really using all of your body to do your replay. So then, moving into the next part, he does the standard wrist break and throws it, gets a nice skeet cap. Skeet caps are somewhat difficult to do. Like, it's definitely not easy. So props to him for getting that nice skeet cap, and also props to him for getting it in relatively quick succession with the punches. He managed to get that skeet out with enough power to decap very quickly, so that's really nice. So if he had ended the replay here, I think if he had just landed on his feet out of that little tuck that he does after the skeet, I think that would be a really nice way to end the replay. But he decides that he wants to go for another skeet there. I really don't like this skeet for a number of reasons. For one, it's way out of the flow of the replay. I mean, he starts up with a fast punch combo followed up by a skeet cap. And unless you have something that's going to come in quick succession after that, there's really not much you should be doing left with this replay besides posing. But he does the skeet anyway, so that's one reason that it doesn't fit with the flow. Another reason is that he already broke one wrist. So your options in this case are either to do a kick skeet, which I think would be the much preferred method in this scenario, or would do what he did and attach it to your arm and then sort of toss it out. And I really don't like the looks of a wrist toss with no wrist, because it lacks a lot of oomph, and the trajectory just looks gross to me. Like, you just look at that skeet, that's just a sad looking skeet, I think. Not compared to the power of that first skeet, which is a lot nicer, in my opinion. And then he gets into a little pose there. So overall, my gripes with this replay are the punches got a little bit samey. I would have really liked for him to just do a nice opener before everything instead of going right into this punch combo, because you don't really get a taste for his style in this replay. You've kind of have seen this kind of replay before, so you don't really get a taste of what Nightshade does. I don't know what he does, but I'm sure he does something that's cool. So I mean, like, openers are a really good time to showcase what makes your replays you and why you're a unique and good replay maker. So I'd say make openers and don't try to tack stuff on at the end when the replay is already over. And for our last replay here, it's going to be The Legend of the Ghost of the Honda Civic by a replay maker that I really like, Desrai. So I'm not going to have much criticism for this replay, I don't think. I just really like this replay, and I really like this replay maker. He's one of my favorites at the moment right now, actually. So we're going to get into it. He's got like sort of a twitchy ankle there. That's one problem I have with the opener. Like you can see, he sort of contracts it suddenly, then extends it, then contracts it again. Actually, it looks like he just relaxes it, but the fact that he has two distinct contracting motions is something that I wouldn't want to keep in my replay. But then I really like this sort of start-stop motion that he has in his opener. Like, he does this really slow step forward, and then he gets a sudden burst of speed from twisting his chest and moving his leg out. So it's a little pop. And then he gets a little kick on the torso to get a nice little lift. I like those little taps on Uke. I think they're cute. I think they look nice. And then, so he gets that tap. He slows down again. And then he gets another really nice spin off the ground. Kicks off the ground twice. And gets a really nice double knee hook right there. Double knee kicks are always pretty good to start your replays with. Whenever I get the chance, I always try to go for them. I think they're really cool hits. So after he does that double knee, he gets a really fast kickoff with the double knee leg, spins around and gets a front kick on the glutes, and that's a really creative hit. I think a lot of people would not have been able to get that glute hit in there. I know I wouldn't have done that, and I think that's a really cool choice that he did that glute kick, and it works out very nicely. Then he lands perfectly from that for a setup for another hit. You can see how smoothly he moves his arms in between that glute kick and his setup for. Look at his right arm. Like, look at how cleanly he sets that up. I think that's so nice how he does that. It's such a smooth transition, and that's one of my favorite parts of the replay, the transition from that glute kick into that hook decap. And then he lands and gets that chest boom. That's another part I have a little bit of a problem with. After the hook decap, he sort of floats in that position that he has there. You can see that his arms in the same place, his legs are in the same place. I guess he contracts his left knee there. And then, I really don't know how he could have handled this better. But I feel like there's just not a lot of flow in between that decap and this grab and that last kick. I wouldn't say that the replay would be better without that last kick, but I feel like he could have made a little bit more of an effort to keep his flow going in between those last two hits. And you can see that he sort of like grabs and releases and grabs again, that wrist there. He doesn't grab and release, but he sort of like jerks his elbow a few times. And I mean, I understand that you need to get the chest in a good position, but you really want to try and keep your movement as smooth as possible always, no matter how good the spoils may be. So that's probably my major gripe with this replay, the transition from that decap into that last hit. It's a little bit too slow for my taste. I really like the opener, though, and I really like those first three hits. Those first three hits are phenomenal. And then he falls into a really nice pose at the end, of course. But I don't really care about poses that much. So that's my episode for this week. I'm going to try and be more consistent with my uploads now. Once I work out my schedule with doing homework and stuff. But as always, you can send in your replays to my Yahoo account, and you can send them in PM or whatever you want. I just want your replays so I can talk about it.